Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Welcome to YouTube. I appreciate all of you so much for the support, ladies. I am so honored and blessed to have this young lady here today. She is super talented. She is super funny. Ladies and gentlemen, Julia Ogilvie is here, and I met her a few years ago when we were doing some other kind of crazy jobs and stuff. And here we are today, and she is all the way in Hawaii. Does everybody who talks about Hawaii do that? Does that bother you? That it's always
No,
like the
I
same?
think it's awesome. It's iconic, so why not? It's all good. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that so much. Are you originally from Hawaii?
Yeah, I was born and raised here, and I
Wow.
left when I was 18, right straight for New York City. So
Hmm.
that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was like, the only thing similar was the language and the currency, and everything else was just a complete shock to the nervous system.
Right. Well, you can
Yeah.
talk to people and spend money, and I guess that's New York. Everything else is just crazy. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Like, well, so many things like billboards. We don't have billboards, subway, trains,
Right.
and people walk so fast, which I know is like, everyone freaks out about that. But like, just so many things. And people weren't smiling. And also, we don't have coats. We don't have scarves or gloves or like hats, like your gorgeous hat.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I never thought about that. Yeah. Why would you ever have to buy a coat?
Oh my
That must
God,
be,
boots. Like
yeah,
as a chick,
boots.
it was so exciting as a chick in the sense of like going and like walking into Payless shoe stores for the first time. I like literally asking him, like, hi, I'm from Hawaii. I just got here and I need to buy a pair of boots. And like, how do I do this? It was it
Oh,
was a lot.
wow. You never think about things like that, especially somebody that was not even, I mean, because Hawaii is, it's America, I get it, but it's like so like kind of like not America too. You know what I mean? It's like it really is like
Its
its
own
own
place.
entity. Yeah, its own
Well,
thing.
I had
Yeah.
this brilliant thing happen in an audition a couple months ago. This wonderful director, and I ended up booking the job and doing it. But this wonderful director, Simon Godwin, he's British and he's so wonderful. And I came in, and he's apparently in British culture, it's a little bit more of an interview vibe
Hmm.
than just come in and do it. So he was asking me where I was from and everything, and we were chatting, and he was like, oh, Hawaii, is that part of America? Like what country? Like it was
He
so
was
sweet.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was so endearing and lovely. It
Good.
was very funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Well, when I worked at a health club once, there was a girl there, and she said, I was telling her, well, it's just send it to Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn. And she was like, Brooklyn, what state is that? That's a state, right? Brooklyn.
Oh,
So
oh no.
I'm not even, I wish I was making that up, but she thought Brooklyn was a state, and I had to tell her it's not. But anyway, that's another story. So what do one of the reasons why, and I was telling you earlier when we first started chatting, was the purpose for this little thing that I'm doing here, and why I think it's so important, especially now more than ever, to really get the artists out there to kind of tell their story, and to kind of give hope to other artists that maybe are sitting at home and just kind of a little bit more helpless. I try to kind of book people that I know just have a really positive attitude, and a drive, and a sincerity about them that I know will really be of value to whoever hears it. So what's one of your things that you've actually right now with this current situation that you're kind of focusing on, like, in as far as coming out of on the other side of what this is all about? And I mean, I know it's a really loaded question. I've asked that to people before, and they're like, you know what, I don't know, I don't even want to talk about that. And other people would open up and embrace it a little bit and say, well, I think it's going to be this and whatever. And
Mhm.
it's a very difficult question to answer. But what do you think, if that the future holds for the entertainment industry, given that Hollywood's been smacked around for the last couple of years, but it's
Totally.
still
Well,
there.
there was this wonderful tweet. I don't remember who tweeted it, but this guy said, we're making the mistake of thinking that we're working from home. It's actually we're
Mm.
working in the middle of a pandemic.
Wow,
So in
interesting.
this sense that like we're so like, oh my God, we're gonna learn 5 languages and we're gonna do our job brilliantly and I'm gonna get ripped and like everything. And it's like, oh no. We're in the
Yeah,
middle of a pandemic. So we got to be kind to ourselves and
right.
try to just operation self-care, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so that really helped me because at first I think like many people, it was like, why am I not getting everything done? Why do I just want to go to bed at 12:30 p.m. and like forget about the world? You know what I
right.
mean? And so once I took pressure off of myself, because I am a workaholic, and I was doing a play in Washington, D.C., and we closed a week early, and my mom came to visit, and she missed the show by a day.
Ah,
And so we decided for me to come home to Hawaii instead of going back to New York. So suddenly I'm home and I'm like, I have all this time. I'm going to write. I'm going to get better at social media. I'm going to learn about TikTok. I'm going to, do that rewrite of my treatment for a pilot that my manager
yeah,
was awesome and got back to me. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to edit this podcast I've had in the bank for a while. I mean, you name it.
yeah.
And I'm gonna learn stand up and start writing stand comedy. Like I was like, and I was writing it all out and I had all my goals. And then I was like, why am I so anxiety ridden? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Why
Because it's
can't I
just
not
like,
sleep?
yeah. And I finally took the pressure off myself and I found focus.
Mm.
And in taking the pressure off, I was like, I decided to work on what I'm working to answer your question.
Yeah, of course. No,
I was
this is fantastic.
I was all heading toward this, I promise. Which is I'm currently working on a new solo show that I'm really excited about. And it's tricky. At first I was like, do I change it for, Zoom audience, like
Ah,
the form? And because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so intense of like, when will we ever get to be in a theater again? But I
Mm,
decided to stay true to it because I want to have faith and we will return to the way we were. It's just going to take time.
right.
And so I wanted to, so right now I'm writing it as if it'll be a live show, but I went through a
Okay.
tough time of like, do I adjust this purely for a digital format, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That's tough. Yeah, go ahead. No.
I'm working on that. And then I'm also working on stand up because I've
Mm.
performed a lot in stand up clubs doing music comedy and then also comedy clubs doing sketch comedy characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I'm used to being around stand-ups but I've done those things, all kind of alternative alt things in the
Right.
midst of stand-up. And now I really want to just do it. So I'm like
Just do
really
it.
working hard on jokes and I'm going to take
Yeah.
this class with from the Comedy Cellar remotely and like,
Hmm.
so, but the main focus is this solo play.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. I think you're absolutely right. I think everyone kind of went into this with the same kind of like, yeah, now I'm gonna write those 5 screenplays that I have. I'm actually gonna start really touching them up and really start casting and what. And for me, it was like I came in and I said, I have like 3 films in the can, right? That I've had like falling outs with editors and stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like struggling with that a little bit. And I edit a little bit myself, but it's such a grueling thing. And when you're not really
Yeah.
too good at the software, it's a pain in the ass. So I said, okay, I'm gonna edit all my films that I have. I'm gonna finish this one thing that
You've
I'm
got
working
so
on.
many films. You're so fancy.
I know, and I just thought, how is that? And I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I just decided I was like, why am I? Why do I feel more stressed now than when I
Right.
didn't have the time?
Right.
When I thought I didn't have the time. It turns out I did have the time. I just was, the management thing of all that. But yeah, you're right. It's self care right now. We're in a situation where it's a serious situation. The virus itself is serious, but the fear sometimes it's almost
Exhausting.
debilitating to some people, and that becomes very, very sensitive issue when you're talking to somebody, and especially if you're a positive person, which
Mhm.
I am. Sometimes I'll make a joke or something and make something, and they're like, "How can you laugh? People are dying." I've gotten that a couple of times. I don't shy away from the jokes because I would die, and that's not who I am, but I think that you're absolutely right about the self-care. Tell me a little bit about, I mean, you don't have to divulge too much, but about this one man show, because I know you've done a lot of stand-up comedy shows. You do your ukulele, and I love it, and it's so funny. And I know you played a lot at the what is it, the
Upright Citizens
upright
Brigade.
citizen brigade, yeah. And so I mean, that's like a venue that's like perfect for for everything, basically having to do with the stage. Do you Is this like a one-man show about your life, or is this something just that you're kind of like mocking up?
Oh, well, yeah, it has autobiographical elements in regards to my experience with mental health. But
Okay.
it's a comedy. It's a music comedy that has dark elements to it. The
Okay.
first half is a straight up sketch show, and then it kind of unravels into a deeper place, but it stays a comedy the whole time. And
Yeah.
it's called Everybody's Got Something.
Okay.
And the basic premise is there's a girl that has not left her attic for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And she puts on a show for no one every single night.
Wow.
And tonight is the first night she's sharing the show on Facebook Live.
Oh, wow.
So it's her opening night. And that's how the show kicks off. And I don't want to,
Hmm.
like, no spoilers, like,
Yeah, yeah, no.
but and it's
Love
basically
it.
it's exploring, like, for me, I'm very open about this. I had a podcast called The Profesh about this in terms of mental illness and mental
Mm-hmm.
health. I
Mm-hmm.
suffer from severe depression. I'm in a really great place. I'm in treatment. I've been on the right medication for a long time now. And so I'm really thriving, but I've worked so hard to get here, you
Right,
know.
right, right, right.
But this character, she struggles with depression. It's part of the reason why she doesn't leave her attic. And the reason she does this show every night, it's like her medication. It's like
Mm,
taking a vacation from her brain without having to go anywhere.
mm,
And so for me, it's exploring that. What is that? When
right, right.
your brain doesn't want you to win, but
Mm,
you fight and you put on a show
right.
because it helps you escape and survive
Yeah.
your struggle. And so I'm really interested in exploring that, but through comedy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's brilliant. I love that idea. And I think it's a perfect vehicle um for pretty much all artists, that because I think I mean, I know for me, that's one of the things where there are days where I'm just like, I just, and it's not, I don't know what it is, but I do get those moments of like really feeling, you know, not moving in the direction that I'm should be going in, which nobody really, I mean, where is the direction? I mean, and then nobody's pointing it out to you. You know what I mean? It's basically, I always liken it to the fact that we're all operating on this really high aesthetic wavelength. It's this very, very creative place where not to sound arrogant, but not a lot of people don't operate up there. They're entertained by us that are up there operating on this wavelength, and that's what people are sitting at home right now watching tons and tons of Netflix. They're sitting at home listening to music. It's all this aesthetic beauty that they're actually being entertained by, that's keeping them going and satisfied. So there is that mental state that I think is really important for artists to really be able to overcome, especially those barriers that you want to run into, that really just sometimes can really just end it for unfortunately for some people, and others like yourself and like me, a lot of others that go through it. I think it's really something that a lot of artists can really take away and benefit from hearing your story, especially. That's a beautiful thing. I love it. Is that something that you have like a team working with you, or do you basically just come to the table with it?
Right now, I'm working with a brilliant dramaturg / director named Lauren Brickman. And she's just a hilarious actress. She has a lot of experience as a director and dramaturg in the theater world and then the straight up comedy club sketch world.
Oh,
And
great.
so she gets both, and I'm trying to combine both.
Yeah.
And I'm just so lucky to be working with her. She's incredible because she keeps asking the tough questions like, well, what are you really after here? What's your intention? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm like, oh man, I gotta really think about this. I can't just try and tell a joke, you know. And I also started to work with this brilliant composer I met at Juilliard named Ruben Allen,
Mhm.
and he's incredible. He's a jazz pianist, basically, in terms of his central background, but composition wise, he can do any genre.
Wow.
And he's just a doll. We can crank out a song in like 2 hours because he's a jazz musician. So he has that
He has that.
improvisational
That's
thing.
sure.
So I can just be like, I have this premise, this comedic premise, and then we can crank something out in a couple hours. So he's a dream to work with.
Oh, that's so great. When you get people like that around you, it just makes the vision so much more clear, and it makes it easier for you to work. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the joy of it, you know.
And I think the funnest thing for me that I love nothing more from like a producing brain is to bring collaborators together that wouldn't normally collaborate from
Mm,
different worlds.
yeah.
And I also love producing, and I'm sure you can relate to this because you create your own work as well. It's like what I love about it is to produce is to create, and to create is to solve problems.
Mm,
So like
yeah.
problem solving is creative.
Right.
And as a producer,
Right.
you're making something out of nothing.
Right.
So it's constant problem solving.
Constant
You know what I
problems.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but I was really thinking about this thing you said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No. 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 Go
I
ahead.
I got excited about this thing where you're saying it can be painful sometimes of like, what am I doing right now in terms of creating content or what speaks to me? And I
Mhm.
really identify with that because for me, it's like especially when we make our own work, we're not just waiting around for an audition.
Right.
There's more to us than that. We have to make work. You know what I mean? It's like, it's as if like if we were like a swimming pool and we're not making work, and it's like leaves are getting stuck in the grid of the pool and we're just getting stagnant,
Mhm.
and we have to like doing our work is like pulling those leaves out of the grid so the circulation can happen.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a very intense necessity to make work, but it can be very painful because we're making our own path. And it's
Right.
like, it's kind of like I'm like hacking, like the traditional thing of being an actor is like a highway, and it's like the Adam Drivers of the world are like in a, you know,
Mhm.
Maserati and being like,
Right.
hell yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they're zooming past, and I'm on the side of the highway with a machete hacking through the jungle,
Right.
trying to make my own path, and I can't see past my hand.
Yeah.
So, but what I've learned is that as long as I follow my enthusiasm,
Mm.
that's what guides me of like, I don't know where I'm headed, but I'm just going to follow this moment. And
Mm.
and during this pandemic, it's like, what do I focus on? Business wise, I should do this, and business wise, I should do that. But then it's like, actually, I got to artistically follow my enthusiasm because that's where it's going to get good. And
Right.
that's then where it's worth, it's of value to then ironically be sold.
Right. Right.
But
Because
it's
it's
also not
genuine.
about that. It's about the doing it for the joy itself as well, because there's no guarantee there's going to be a golden nugget at the end,
Right. Right. Right.
you know.
Yeah. You have to
So
love it at all costs, you know, and that's
totally.
the, and when you do, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were, I
No,
don't want
no,
to.
I just totally agree with you. And especially during this pandemic, we have to dive deep in, because we do have the time, you know,
Yeah.
of what do I, if I want to persevere in this business, how do I follow my enthusiasm so it's great and keep it greater than the obstacles? It's like if enthusiasm is greater than the obstacles, you will persevere. And
Mhm.
that's what keeps you in the hardest business to be in the world. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Is just
Uh,
straight up perseverance. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I love that, you know, follow your enthusiasm. I mean, that's like so brilliant because it's true. It's what started the whole thing to begin with. Why did you, you know what I mean? What was it that why did you go in that direction? Well, that's the reason, that's the thing that you have to stick with, you know, and I think when you kind of get on that path and then you kind of know, okay, I want to do this, and then you get on that road, and then there's so many other, since we were talking about cars, there's so many other cars on the highway that are either bumping you into the other lane, or trying to get you off on an exit, or trying to just take you in other directions that you don't really want to go, but it's sort of in the direction of, and I've fallen into this, I'm the biggest sucker for this, but it's sort of in the direction of what you want to do, but it's not what you want to do. So it's sort of like somebody who wants to be an architect, and they say, well, you can't be an architect, but if you'd like, you can help me put in this bathroom, and start with the toilet. And the guy's like, all right, well, I'm building, but it's not really what he wants to do. So at some point, he's going to hit a wall, because it's not his enthusiasm, like you said, that got him there, So that's a very brilliant analogy. I love that. Let me ask you, we talked a little bit about, you mentioned earlier Juilliard. How was that experience? Because I met you during those years, and I knew you went off to Juilliard, and that must have been an amazing experience, because that's a very, very, first of all, it's a tough school to get into. And second, I know it's a lot of work. Like, they really, they really
Yeah.
work you. So how was that experience?
Yeah, it was very intense, very
Yeah.
intense, to the point where we're called, like, our graduating class. It's not like the year of, we call ourselves groups. So it's like group 1, group 2, group 3, starting in the 70s. And I'm group 41. And I'll be randomly in Houston at an opening night party of a play, and I'll meet somebody for the first time, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I was group 14.
Oh,
And we
wow.
have this immediate connection, immediate
Absolutely.
deep connection, because of the crazy town, stuff we went through. And like, some of us call it Juilliard, because and Robin Williams called it an insane asylum with cellos.
Right. There you go.
And what's so funny is there is a beautiful level of douchedom, in the sense that every room has a Steinway.
Well,
And people don't donate, like, people will donate other kinds of pianos, and they give them away.
yeah, we're not taking that. I'm sorry. We
Having
don't do
said
Casios.
that,
Yeah.
when you wipe off the sparkle of the name Juilliard, it's just a very small conservatory school. And what's amazing about the drama department is, like, it's a very, like, 18 people per class in the same half of one floor for 4 years. There's only about 70 something of us total in the drama department. So they pick people who are not crazy. Like, they don't, because we're stuck together.
Right.
So it's a surprisingly down-to-earth, non-douchedom, grounded environment.
Yeah.
And the support system, there's free therapy, which is greatly needed. And and so it is so intense, because the first 3 years are 14-hour day, 12 to 14-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week, and you do a full day of classes, and then you rehearse till 10:30, 11 at night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I literally would come home to my apartment and fall asleep in my coat, and then just, like, get up and go back. You know what I mean? Like, literally considered, like, hiding in the building and just sleeping where the security guards couldn't see me.
Wow.
I would literally there's practice rooms where all these incredible musicians are in monastic splendor doing these fugues and stuff, and it's so intimidating, because all we do is walk and talk, you know what I mean? And but I would find times where I would nap under pianos, because it was just, like, the only cozy place I could find. And there was this one time I was between a matinee and an evening show of this, like, 3-hour farce, so it was just like trying to get a train from Newark to LA in, like, 3 hours. And I was so exhausted, and so I ate my pasta under the piano, and I was taking a power nap, and these two pianists walked in chatting, about to practice, and I just screamed under the piano. I was like, "I'm napping!" And they were like, "Ah!" and, like, ran away. They, like, ran away. And I had this moment, I was like, I think this is my darkest moment. I think
Well, pasta under a piano, trying to nap and yelling, "I'm napping." I wouldn't. I would say that's pretty much definitely a very interesting moment to be in.
Yeah,
Challenging.
but it was really incredible in terms of learning how to walk and talk in various and sundry ways. Like
Mm-hmm.
it really was incredible training. And later on when I'd be doing a professional show, it's like, wow, they really did train me. This is a, 8 to 1200 seat house. I have no
Yeah.
mic. I'm doing Shakespeare and they trained me for it and I'm ready.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
hilarious is when I was there anyway, they didn't train you very much in TV and film. So
Right.
you're a shiny penny for about 8 months, maybe. As this one casting director, VP of casting from Fox said, he's like, you're a shiny penny for like a year. You're Miss America for a year. And I didn't know what he meant, but in terms of the next class, you're hot for a tittle bit and then that's it.
Mm.
It's like people like when you're at Juilliard, it's like people come up to the glass and they're like, ooh, look at the pandas. They're so pretty and unique. And then once you graduate, you're just another Central Park pigeon and people hope you don't shit on their forehead. But anyway, but they don't teach you TV and film. So when I got out to LA and I was doing these pilot auditions, I still had the standard American dialect, which basically sounds British.
Right.
So I'd be like, hello, it's nice to meet you, And then I had this one audition for this AMC show called Turn. And I did the audition, and afterwards the casting director was like, oh, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Hawaii. And she goes, oh, I thought you were from London. And I went, oh no, I just graduated Juilliard. And she was like, yeah. So it's like, so they prepared us brilliantly for certain kind of work.
Right.
And it
Right.
took me about a year to wring out the voice and speech training for TV and film, because the biggest thing is, and I'm sure you can identify with this or tell me if this resonates with you, is when you're in the real world, who you are uniquely is your commodity.
Right.
But in school, they're trying to give you range.
I got it.
But in the
Okay.
real world, you got to just be yourself. But at
Right.
school, I'm cast as like the 82-year-old woman in a Chekhov play. But when you get in the real world, they already got an 82-year-old woman who's been
Right.
doing it her whole life, and she's awesome.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess it's interesting to have that range training because it does give you more perspective on characters and just more insights on just different characters in general. What my experience is with not necessarily Juilliard graduates, but with theater is when you're on a film set, and I've done maybe like 12 short films and stuff, and when a theater actors comes in or actor, I have to kind of like direct them differently, and especially if it's their first project, not if they've done stuff, because I mean they're very, very smart, right? I mean, you're on theater. If you're learning all that dialogue for a 2-hour play, and you're doing Shakespeare, you're an incredible, intelligent, very aware person. So, but it is sometimes a little bit more. They'll come out, and you know what I think about it as like a film like Katharine Hepburn, where and not that she was theater, but she was very out there. And, she came
Theatrical.
very theatrical. And I think that kind of when you're shooting a film about a housewife, you can't really you have to kind of tone that down a little bit. And I think
Charles, bring me the tea. I need it now.
yeah, I'm like, all right, cut. Can you do me a favor? But you
I
also
brought you a Christmas tree. I hope you'll like it.
Let me ask you a question, because this is something that actually I just came to me. Like if I'm directing somebody, I'm always afraid to insult them. Yeah, that's like my thing. Like I'm good communicating. I'm good listening. I'm good, kind of like figuring out where the actor was the scene before to where they are now, so they can actually kind of like have that continuity in the character. And I think that's important. I think a lot of directors miss that sometimes. But one of the things that I have trouble with is if an actor is over, maybe just not getting it, just not getting the little nuances. Like, he's too angry. You shouldn't be that angry. You should be this angry. And I can't say that. I mean, I do now, because now I'm older and I don't care as much. But
You're like,
back,
do what
yeah,
I say, do what I say.
yeah, this business would be great if it wasn't for the actors. So now it's like a little bit more of a straightforward, like, no, I need you to tone it down. I don't want you to be angry. How do you deal with being directed, coming from Juilliard and your tremendous background in theater and in comedy and doing Shakespeare? Like, do you have a particular style that you prefer a director to be, or do you like just like coming in, doing the work and doing it your way, and then having a director guide you? Or like, has a director ever been
Yeah.
mean to you?
Oh, I've cried in rehearsal rooms.
Really? Oh shit.
Woo! Yeah, it was very embarrassing, and it toughened me up. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but that's such an amazing question. The biggest thing I'm grateful for with Juilliard is that they have you do 4 plays a year, and full-length plays, while you're also taking classes. And so, but they bring in professional directors.
Oh.
So I was working with different kinds of directors, and then also in the professional world, you just work with very different kinds of people. But at Juilliard, they toughen you up. I came into it very precious about my work, very giving over all my power, looking to the director as if they were a guru, and all these things. What?
We
Sorry,
lost
what?
the signal a little bit.
Oh, but yeah, I was just saying, like, I used to give over all my power to the director, and also just like treat them as the guru and depend on them for confidence. I was very codependent. But with Juilliard, it was just through osmosis. They're just like, you learn how to like come into a room, own your shit, be open and available to the work, but also bring in what you have to offer, and then be a tough cookie. And I don't care what the feedback is. You want me to do that? I'll try anything.
Right. Oh, okay.
And I'll be enthusiastic about trying any choice. I might have an opinion about what feels the best.
Right.
But I'll try anything. And if someone says, be less angry, I'm like, check.
Right.
Done.
Right.
No problem. And I don't take it personally, because it's not personal. It's about the work.
Right.
What can be challenging. And so sometimes I appreciate directors that are inside out, like emotional, and not about structure. Like, some directors are like, okay, let's look at the structure and then let's fill in the structure. Let's, like, the play is the ground plans, and we're going to build the house. And let's build the house, and then we'll fill it up with life. So it's like technical outside, and then filling it with life, outside in. And then there's other directors that are inside out. They don't really care about the structure. They just want the emotional truth of it and emotionally alive. And then that will suddenly create the show. But what's challenging is taking the time to suss out what kind of director it is.
Okay.
Because sometimes a director will profess that they're an inside out director, but on their feet, the way they work, they are technical mofos. And you better understand that structure, honor that structure, and then the emotional come later.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's really, you got to be so it's tricky being an actor, because it's like you got to be very perceptive of the kind of room you're in. And really bring with confidence and no apologies what you have, but then ready to wipe it all away and not take it personally.
Yeah.
But also be an advocate and really have opinions, but know when to not talk.
Right. Oh man, that is a skill in itself, apparently.
Woo! Yeah, sensing when it's inappropriate. I was just doing a play that was off Broadway, and then we took it to DC, And it was very humbling where there were times where I would speak my opinion and then I'd be like, oh, that wasn't the right moment. You know, but then there's other times where it's absolutely, you've got to speak up, you have a thought, and it's going to help tell the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
main thing is
absolutely.
to not take things personally. I think as an actor, so it's like one director might say, okay, great. In that previous circumstance, I really think emotionally, given you've just come from this place, why don't you
Right.
try to find that? And then another director will be like, all right, that was a 9 of anger. Take it down to a 2. All right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like translating what they're saying to then be able to deliver whatever they're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think what you said about perception, I think that that's a really big thing that actors actors are people, you know, for the most part. And I think that when you get that kind of training like you got, I'm sure that helped you kind of deal with a lot of different directors where you had to have really good perception because you got, like you said, you got one director did this, one director did that. You want to go into a project knowing that whatever this director is, I know I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to handle it, and I think that that's a very, very key element. You said something earlier also about the not taking it personally, and that is such a huge thing for actors, to
Huge.
because it's such an emotional industry. It's such as an actor, as a musician, as a dancer, whatever you're doing, you're creating this thing that to create this beauty, and somebody tells you something that really hurts. And I'm talking about not just directors, I'm talking about the industry itself. That really can hurt. So it's we talked about this a couple of shows ago with somebody where they were crippled for a while by getting a something some negative feedback or some really bad review or something. And there's also feedback, and then there's just somebody who's just a douche. You know what I mean? You have to also kind of like know, it's somebody who says, yeah, I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. All right, that's legit. I'll take that. But somebody who says something a little bit more meaner, then that's just, you have to kind of be able to handle both of them equally the same and not really give a crap about that. That's where it gets challenging. Do you
Totally.
think, yeah, do you think that you'll ever direct? I mean, I know you've done, you kind of do direct, but like on a,
I actually haven't, and I've
oh,
I've
interesting.
always wanted to. I've always wanted to direct, like especially theater and
Oh,
also on camera as well. But I shy away a little bit from it because I'm a people pleaser, and
right,
it's not necessarily the best when you're at the helm of a
right,
ship.
right.
Because I'd be like, is it okay? I'm so sorry I exist. I'm like this big. Is it okay if you move over there? Like, would that be all right? Like, just it would like really help the moment of this scene.
Yeah, yeah. That does actually occur. Oh, I thought, yeah, you know what? Going back to what you said earlier about the work and how it's always about the work. If you only focus on the work, you'll be fantastic. You know why? Because you already have such a clear vision about what you want to do on stage as a performer. Then if you turn that around, you say what you want them to do as a performer through the eyes that I see, how almost like how I would do it, you see, because that's how I think sometimes. And I hate doing this sometimes to actors, but like I said, I'm older now. I don't really give a crap. But I'll say like this one particular line. I'll say like, I want you to say it like this. Now that's like a no to some actors because you might, you're taking away something that, but for me, I'm seeing this vision and I'm seeing this scene play out this way. And if I feel that the arc is not going in that direction and it's kind of getting lost in translation, then I need to say something, right? Because then what's the point of directing if you can't direct? So I think that
Yeah,
that's a, yeah, go ahead.
well, I to go off on that, I've had a long journey with line readings where I originally came from the Meisner world, and I was trained in the Meisner, the Maggie Flanagan studio, incredible Meisner training program before I went to Juilliard. And there it's about the truth of the moment emotionally, and not getting like line readings, they're technical, and the devil incarnate and all of that. So I went into Juilliard where they'd be like, this is the operative, you go up at the end of the sentence, this is the verb, this is antithesis,
Right.
this is how you say this. And I literally had one class where we were reading a New Yorker article, learning prose and how to land certain words for clarity of a thought. And I walked out of the room.
You did?
I was so devilish, and they were like, you come back here and you do it. And I burst into tears. And I think it's so funny now, because I look back and I'm like, now I love line readings. I'm like, give me line readings, because now I translate it into intention, because it's like, oh, great, the operative is, you know, the word run in that sentence or whatever. And that helps clarify the thought.
Right.
And then also helps me understand my point of view and my intention and what I'm doing in that moment as that character. Right. So now I don't mind line readings, but I used to be that intense of like, don't give me a line reading, I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Right. It's funny. I think also the fact that you know, when you're also the different techniques, right? You'll have.
Oh, I lost the sound on you for a second. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Sorry, technical glitch. So I was saying that I the different types of techniques, and you got the British technique with the whole, you know, what the words are and focus on the words and the inflections and the, you know, the moment and the whole thing. And I think that it's interesting when you throw these actors out with like so many different techniques and different ways of doing it. And then you got a set with like 5, you know, or anything, any theater piece or anything with 6 different forms of acting. And there's one director, all he's trying to do is get this scene, and you have these different types of methods on the stage, you know. So that has to be probably the hardest thing. I mean, as a director, I would not think about that. You know, like I don't even care what. I mean, you could take a, you know, the tin can class, which I just made up, but you know, you could just take a class learning about tin
can acting technique.
Yeah, it's very popular.
What would that entail? Like, all right, kids, you're gonna come on, and then you're gonna do a little tap number. You go over here, and then you're gonna say, "Go."
Right. You see that Coke can? Go kick that Coke can. That's your first mark.
That's your objective.
Pepsi is your second mark. You make it here to the Sprite can. So you know, if I wouldn't care what technique anybody comes on set with, as long as they can deliver their lines, obviously, and be able to play nice, you know. And you said that earlier, you know, like in Juilliard, they pick these 70 people. That's not a lot, but it's a lot when you put them in these cornered rooms, and you don't want the Real World episode being shot there. So you got to really, you know, interview these people and make sure that they don't create havoc. And I think you know, I think the industry is actually very, very small. You know, like it's not this huge thing, even though people say, you know, because when, you know, I've auditioned for a lots of things, HBO and stuff, and when you get to the audition for like HBO or NBC or one of those things, the auditions are so different than when you're shooting for, you know, or auditioning for like a film or a feature, you know, a short feature or an independent, because they sit down with you. They don't even make you slate or anything. There's no cameras in the room. There's just a casting director with a little book and a pen, and they're just looking at you and asking you questions, you know. And I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody that they see can be this character visually. Now they can deliver the lines. Great. That's step 2. Great. they have a good voice. They actually fit the character. Now, are they easy to work with? Are they going to be fine on set? Are they going to, are there going to be any kind of a lot of this going on? I've been on sets where actors, I'm trying to like get away from them because all they want to do is talk, and I'm getting ready for a scene or something, and I have a ton of lines. They got 2 lines, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, shut up. Why are you talking to me so much? And it's very, very distracting. So I don't know why I went there, but I think I went there for the just to talk about how on a film set it's so important to. Oh, I was talking about actors and their awareness level, and um being able to take those techniques onto a set and put the technique aside and just focus on the character. And then when you really know the technique, then you don't even think about it, right? It's innate, it's part of you, it's just part of how you operate.
Yeah, well, it makes me think of if you're lucky, I think a director can assess actors are working in different ways and thus know how to talk to them
Right.
to get, because all roads lead to Rome, which is telling the story that's on the page.
Yeah.
So it's like whether an actor works inside out or outside in, they're gonna hopefully meet in the middle where they're both executing what's on the page and it's emotionally full and truthful.
Right.
And they just come at it from different angles. And a previous boyfriend of mine, he was a wonderful actor, incredible actor. He passed away last year, but he was an incredible actor. And he did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and he was playing George. And he starts out very technical. He executes what's on the page, and he knows, great, this is the event that's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get from A to B to C to D to crescendo to that moment, and all that. So he works very technically, but then emotionally he fills that up. But that's how he starts. The gal playing Martha was a Meisner actor and was a Meisner teacher. So she was full of emotion, every rehearsal, bawling, you name it, but would just be so in the moment, she wouldn't even worry about what was supposed to happen. And so at first, the two, they drove each other banana pants.
I could see that.
But the director really knew how to talk to both of them, and they were smart enough, they respected each other, and they came to the central place where they told the story. But they came at it from opposite ends in terms of process.
Right.
So I just think you want to luck out with a director that can assess those different methods and those approaches and know how to talk to the actors to get the roads to both lead to Rome.
Sure. And I guess it's personality too, being again, like what you said earlier about being very aware. And I think you used the word, I wish I could remember. You said, what was the word you used? To be in the moment. Let's rewind. So yeah, no, you're right. I think that's the director really has to take that into account with everybody that's on set, and that's why some of the great directors are just like really nice people to talk to, because they address everyone as individuals, as opposed to, well, you're doing this and you're doing that, and I don't understand that over there. I get you, but I don't get you. You know what I mean? That won't work as a director. They have to be just kind of like nice people. I mean, not all directors are. Some directors are a little bit rougher, but I think if they still can actually assess a person's personality and how to address that person to get the performance that they need, I think that you have somebody who will do the job.
Yeah, if you're lucky, the director is that perceptive to the level of almost a psychotherapist. But also as an actor, it's important to have autonomy to go, great, this director is not perceptive. They're just going to yell at me, take it from a 10 to a 3. You know what I mean? And then just having that autonomy and sense of self of like, okay, great, that's how he operates or she operates, and I'm just going to make the adjustment and then figure it out later. Like sometimes it's like, just take the adjustment, take the note, and then organically you can fill it up emotionally, truthfully later.
Yeah.
To justify it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. This is like a masterclass.
No.
No, you're awesome because you have so much. No, it really is. And I think a lot of people will take value, in this. in what you're saying. Let me ask you. We talked a little bit about I was gonna ask you about obstacles that you've overcome, like ones that really, the ones that really were hard, but you overcame them and you came on the other side and you were like, holy shit, how did, if I can come out of that, I could pretty much do anything. I'm able to confront other things. Do you have any moment like
Yeah,
that you can remember
absolutely.
that you
So
can share with, obviously?
yeah, I graduated Juilliard in 2012, and I immediately signed with a manager and agent in LA, because because I put pressure on myself with the showcase in New York of like, oh my God, I have to do good. This is my coming out party. Oh my God. But that's a misconception, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's not about showcase. It's not the be all end all. It's about years of getting to know, people and like
Mm-hmm.
directors and being in the business and like relationships. I think relationships are the thread that sews together the
Absolutely.
patchwork of your career. But you
Mhm.
don't understand that. You're just in your fourth year, you're just like, oh my, you've been in jail for 4 years, and then you're like, this is my coming out party. So in New York, I was terrified, and I kind of like had an anvil on my chest. But when we did the showcase in LA, I was like, I'm not 16, I'm not a stick, they won't care about me. So I was free and open. And apparently I was really funny, and I didn't really realize this. And so then suddenly it was like a tsunami, and I didn't have a snorkel in terms of response, because
Mhm.
apparently a lot of people can cry and throw spaghetti at the wall. A less amount of people can tell a joke and
Right.
make people laugh. But I didn't value that. I was like, but I can cry really good. I'm like a so good at crying and throwing spaghetti at the wall. But anyway, so, and I missed Hawaii, and LA reminded me of Hawaii. I was interested in TV and film, you know what I mean? So I moved
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
And unfortunately, what blossomed was my depression.
Mm.
So suddenly, and I had been introduced to medication when I was at Juilliard, but I fell off of it, because what's tricky about depression is that the depression doesn't want you to take care of yourself. So even if you start to get on medication and be in therapy, it's very easy to drop out of it because you don't want to take care of yourself. So
Right.
I was in LA, and I was, in professional show business for the first time in my life. I was in a new city for the first time in my life. I was out of school for the first time in my life. And then I had crippling depression.
Wow.
And I had gotten my driver's license 2 days before I moved to LA. So
Mm.
it was a lot. And I was in these audition rooms auditioning during pilot season, being like, these are the forgeries of jealousy. So it was like, I was a shit show. I was a fucking shit show. And the depression, what's so hard about depression, especially with show business, is 90% of this game is confidence.
Yeah.
Like there's confidence, and Matthew Hussey, this really great guy, motivational speaker guy, talks about confidence and competence. He's like, sometimes people are really confident, but they're not competent.
Right.
And I was very competent, but I had no confidence.
Ah, interesting.
And then multiply that by 1,000 because I'm depressed, because depression is you don't want to exist. You want to disappear. You don't feel worthy. You feel guilty, and you just want to go.
Right.
And that doesn't facilitate confidence.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and
Right.
much of it is walking into audition rooms, not being like, hi, how are you? But I'm awesome, and you're
Yeah.
lucky I'm here, and I'm going to crush this, and then I'm going to leave.
Right.
Like that's literally the level. It's got to be just below arrogance.
Right.
Very
fine line,
but not, it's not any high. It's got to be just below.
right.
But it's got to be that high.
It's gotta be, yeah.
Because they have a problem they need to cast.
Right.
And they want you to be the confident one to be like, I can solve your problem.
Right.
Now, when I'm so depressed, I can't get off the floor. I don't want to take a shower. I can't eat. It's kind of hard to walk in the room thinking I'm the shit.
Right.
So a big obstacle was I wouldn't hustle. I wouldn't promote myself. I wouldn't hustle. And I could barely get my makeup on and do my hair in time to get to the audition.
Wow.
Because when you're really busy trying not to hurt yourself,
Yeah.
it takes all of the energy out of you. And like, it's like trying to run a race with other people, but you have an injured leg.
Wow.
And and that's what it was like. So all my fellow comrades from school were just right, they were in the race and they were going for it. And I was trying too, but I couldn't run as fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
finally, my boyfriend at the time was so worried about me because I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't function.
Wow.
He took me back to New York because he would do regional shows and he'd be out of town and worry about me. And he felt like if I was in New York, it would somehow be better for me because that used to be my home. So
Right.
we moved back to New York mainly because he wanted to take care of me because he was worried about me. And he helped me find the Fifth Avenue Center in New York, a wonderful therapy, center. And they properly diagnosed me. It took them some years, but they found the right cocktail of medication. And I've been in treatment. And now, like, I'm thriving. Like, I'm doing, like, for the past few years, I've been doing amazing. And it's because I finally realized if I don't have my health, I don't have anything.
Right.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
if I don't take that medication and stay in treatment, I would sometimes turn down auditions because I would want to stay in treatment and it would interrupt treatment. And, you don't want to have to do that, but sometimes I have made that sacrifice.
Right.
So that is my depression has been a huge obstacle I've overcome.
Wow.
And now that I'm healthy, mentally, I'm in a really balanced place. Because mental illness, it's kind of like balance. It's like the equilibrium. It's like the equator of the globe. And you go down to the South Pole, and then I come back up to the equator, and then I go back down to the South Pole, and I come back up. But for the past few years, I've been at the equator. So then, now that I just have baseline, it's like, now how do I work on my confidence?
Right.
How do I start owning that I have something to offer and it doesn't suck? And with in the comedy world, you have to promote your stuff, you have to hustle. It's just like the acting world.
Yeah.
And I still struggle to hustle because and oh my God, I struggle with inviting people. John, I haven't invited you to some of my shows because I was afraid it would suck. And then it would be sold, and then it would be sold out. It would be amazing. It would go great. And then I'd be like, I wish I'd been invited John.
Oh no, that was when you were in New York, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be back once for this pandemic, once I'm able to, I'll be back for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. That's tremendous. That's a tremendous story. Wow. I mean, definitely. I mean, you are incredibly talented, and you definitely. I know you don't need to hear this, but I know you definitely have a tremendous amount to offer and to give to this industry and to the world. So, you know, it's hard because I don't understand the degree of that degree of mental illness. I have my own realities on that. I have like what I've studied is more like the reactive mind and the analytical mind, where the reactive mind basically is what's trying to stop you at 24/7. And the heavier that reactive mind is, the more damage it will do. And the analytical mind is kind of like saying, well, I'm good, but the reactive mind is like, shut up, you're not, and overcoming those two and you're really getting rid of the reactive mind is really what's been my challenge and what I've actually worked on for the last 20 years to kind of get to the point where I feel confident enough even to do something like this. I mean, who the hell am I? I'm like, I'm talk show host guy now. And that's right. I'm hosting a show. Shut up. But I'm like, I feel comfortable enough and confident enough that I can have a conversation with somebody and draw value, which you've already provided so much, so other people can actually do better and learn from somebody. You know what I mean? So it's a struggle, and I think that the industry is not really equipped sometimes to really help in that area because of the pressures of having to fulfill their duties. They have to cast people. They can't
Yeah.
just like be like, I know you're struggling, or I know you're having problems, but we really like you for this role. Can you just get your stuff together and we'll help you? They're not going to do that. They're just going to go to the next
Yeah.
person, you know?
Speaking to that in the sense of, again, obstacle, the positive thing and I really struggled out of school. A lot of my comrades were working immediately in TV and film, off Broadway, become huge stars. I mean, you name it. But I really struggled out of school. Struggled to book work. I really, really struggled. But the positive thing is, I found the comedy world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
but the biggest thing for me was I started to find a sense of myself slowly but surely that had nothing to do with show business.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I found a strength in building a structure that was my life, where I wasn't looking to show business for external validation, because I didn't get it from the beginning.
Ah, okay.
So
Wow.
some people who worked immediately out of school, they could look for external validation because they were getting it.
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly when that was gone for the first time, they have their moment in the puddle, where they're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And for
yeah.
me, because I got very strong. I got very strong because I had a lot of struggle the first 4 years out of school.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you think also New York, I worked in the health club industry for almost I'd say about 18 years, so I've interviewed, hundreds of people, and a lot of I hire a lot of actors. I've hired just a lot of performers and entertainers, because I just think that I don't know, they're just more, I don't know, that's probably just my bias, but whatever it is, I did it. I'm guilty of that. So, but I would say that New York is very, very distracting. Like I would get these these young people coming in, and they'll work and stuff, and they'd be out there auditioning and doing their thing, but I would see them going on parties a lot, and going out a lot, and this person's birthday, it's that person's birthday, it's their birthday, and just getting so distracted in New York City, because New York City is like an amazing place. It's like the place. You can walk down the street and you're going to run into like amazing, entertainment, So do you find it that if Juilliard had been in somewhere else, did New York put extra stress on you, or was it just the idea of coming out of the school and trying to book work, or was New York just like, because you mentioned earlier when you moved there, it was like whoop, it was like a little bit different than what you're used to. How was that like, New York City? Because I'm always curious about New York and how people actually deal with that world, especially if they're not from there.
Interesting. So I'm just trying to understand more. So are you saying, in terms of New York City, was there something about it that made me want to leave, or that I found challenging?
Well, the distraction of New York, New York being, one, expensive, being loud, being fast, being, I
Yeah.
mean, those three top things, and not just that, but I think people, and this is again a generalization on my part, but I think a lot of performers sometimes give in to the entertaining themselves, because it's much more fun to go to Jerry's birthday party because he's gonna have punch.
Well, you can
And
ask any of my Juilliard classmates. I had the opposite problem.
did he?
From 18, I was always obsessed with my work to a fault. I
Ah,
I wouldn't
interesting.
social my Juilliard classmates did not like me that first year because I was so obsessed. Like, I would spend the weekend in those music practice rooms working on my script. Like, I didn't go out. I didn't have fun, and I wish I'd had more fun. But I have the opposite problem. Like, I can't name, like, when my friends come to New York City and they're like, "Oh my God, like, where do we go? Like, I want to have so much fun." And I'm just like, "You're asking the wrong girl." Like, I have no fucking idea. Like, I have no idea. I can't tell you the hot spots.
Right.
And frankly, because of the depression also, it's like I would do day job, acting, try not to hurt myself. Day job, acting, try not to, like, I don't want to get too dark there, but it's the truth.
Right.
And I'm a workaholic, and a lot of people in my life that love me are like, you need to have fun. Like, what do you do? So that's a new concept to me. Like, during this pandemic, I have a rule at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm not allowed to do any more work.
Okay.
And I have to like just chill out and, you know, play gin rummy with my mom, or go for a walk, or go for a run, or watch something fun, call a friend, be silly, like just do something not work related, which is really hard for me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because our work is also our passion, but it's, you know, so it's kind of like, well, like playing guitar. I played, you know, for many years with bands and recorded and toured and all that stuff. And, you know, I remember not wanting to play sometimes, you know, just being tired because I'm like, you know, but I always thought, well, you got to practice, you got to get better, you got to get better, you got to get better. And there's that voice in your head that says, you got to get better, you got to get better, you got to get better. But you have to be able to like shut that down and be like, all right, I'm going, like tonight, I watched a Marvel movie with my son. You know what I mean? We just sat there and we watched whatever, one of those Captain America things. And I had a ball, you know, I had fun. And, you know, it was a lot of explosions and a lot of silly things. And I was like, oh, this is cool, you know. But you have to take that time. So it is part of what we started off with was self-care, you know, and I think that that's part of the responsibility of a performer.
Yeah. And ironically, when you take a break and you take in stuff, you take in life, you're present in the moment. Ironically, you're subconsciously putting money in the bank that you'll get to spend in your work. Like comedy wise, I get ideas from just being out in the world with my friends, hanging out. Like the first comedic song I ever wrote with my friend Nalini Sharma, who you know.
Oh yes, Nalini.
Because in LA we created the music duo Manifesto of Hiatus, and 4 months into performing, we were at the Comedy Store in front of 400 people. It was crazy.
Wow. That's amazing.
And oh my god! And she didn't know how to play an instrument, so we gave her a drum.
I remember seeing clips. I loved it.
But the first song we ever wrote was about a male gigolo going through a quarter life crisis. And his name was Flo the Hoe.
Nice.
And I would put a mustache on, and she would be the spirit she'd be the spirit of Lil Wayne guiding me through my quarter life crisis. So but we got that idea through just hanging out and like being out in clubs and like just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it reminds me of you know, Brian Regan, the stand-up.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I love him. But he was talking about how he gets his jokes from just being out. Like he has that butterfly pavilion joke that he talks about. Like he's like, you know, the guy's like, hey, so I'll answer all your butterfly questions. And he's like, all of them? You know, like, he's like, gee, does this one eat? You know, like he's trying to come up, and he came up with that just because he took his family to a butterfly pavilion, you know. And so it is about experiencing life, because that's what gives you the fodder for the work, basically, you know. So it's absolutely an important factor. Wow, you are like so awesome.
Oh, no.
I really thank you for your time. I'm gonna ask you, for anyone listening, what is one piece of advice, like a really tangible thing that you think that someone who's, it doesn't matter their industry, or you can go into just being an actor or a comedian, but overall, even overall, if you can, that they can take with them during this time when everybody is kind of on lockdown, that they can operate with and maybe afterwards utilize to kind of expand their art and their art.
Yeah, Operation Tangible. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I would say I'll get a little sort of idea-y, and then I'll bring it to the tangible, which is I think what we talked about before in terms of enthusiasm. I think under the umbrella of enthusiasm comes focus on what do I want to do. So, okay, I'm enthusiastic about writing. Okay, great. Or I'm enthusiastic about making a podcast, or I'm enthusiastic about making a web series or whatever. first honing down and getting super focused on what you actually tangibly want to create for yourself.
Mm.
And then from that, I would say my advice is to reach out. Don't isolate. I would say like
Ah.
research your heroes given the focus. So it's like okay, so what am I enthusiastic about? Under that umbrella, what do I want to focus on? What do I want to do? Get that super specific, and then start researching your heroes that are doing that, and trying to like take in their stuff, but also reach out to people. I would say reach out to at least 2 to 5 people like a day, a week, where it's
Mm.
like, hi, I've just asked people out for coffee. I'm like, hey, I really admire your work, you're so funny, I'd love to hear about your process, can I take you out for a cup of coffee sometime, or a
Mm.
Zoom meeting? You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
like, I think the biggest thing is when you're excited and enthusiastic about a project or an idea, or you want to create a project but you don't know how,
Yeah.
you can find people on the internet or ask friends. Like if you put
Mm-hmm.
it out there and talk to your friends and family about what you want to do, you'd be surprised. Like they know somebody who knows somebody, and you can reach
It's
out to them.
true.
And worst case scenario, you never hear back from that person, or they're like, no. And then you're
Right.
like, great, then you're not the right person to talk to anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Wow.
I
That was
yeah, so I
that
think
was
the
great.
biggest tangible advice is reach out, like in a way that you're checking it off. Like I reached
Yeah.
out to 2 people today, someone I know, someone I don't know, someone that's a friend of a friend, someone
Mm-hmm.
who is the husband of my aunt's cousin, like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's this great video, this thing, and it's apropos, I promise, and I know we gotta go, but there's this thing of like this great video where they're like, count how many times all these people dribble a ball. And so you watch the video and you're like, okay, 18 times. And they're like, did no one notice the gorilla walking by? And they played the video again, and a gorilla had been walking by, but we were so focused on the
Wow.
ball and how much it was being
Interesting.
dribbled. And it was this great example of like, what are you focusing on? So
Yeah.
if you're focusing, like if you know what you're looking for and you constantly talk and ask people about it, it will come into your life and it will
Yes.
come to fruition. But you just got to
Yes.
not isolate, and you got to reach out. So that's my advice.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That is so specific. Thank you for doing that. Yes, the overall, like what you had mentioned, enthusiasm, and then focused on what you really, really what you really want, you know. And I think that that's actually a big thing. Like, find your why, find your the thing that makes you happy, that one thing, and really focus on that. And then the reaching out part, man, that is like so important, and especially now, because you never know who you're reaching out to that might really need to hear from somebody. You know what I mean? Because there are people right now saying like, hey, everything is great, it's fine, I'm home, but you don't know what's happening. And getting a call, and I did this when this first started. I'm a big believer in just reaching out and trying to communicate with a lot of people. I sent out like 200 texts in like a day and a half. And
Oh,
by the
you're
way,
so popular, John. You're so
my God.
popular.
Yeah, I just bought I just bought a new phone, and the person at the phone center, she was helping me transfer my phone number. Then I had 10,000 phone numbers, and she has like, and she looks at it, she goes, you have 10,000 phone numbers, and
Well, now you're just bragging.
I was like, yeah, sorry, I don't know if I might not know any of them. They're mostly mostly because that's what back when I was a drug dealer, I just had a lot of clients. And I'm just kidding,
Now it
but
becomes clear.
that's what happened. So I did that. I sent out like about 200, and it was actually so therapeutic for me. And then some people that I hadn't, like you said, I haven't spoken to them in a while. I went through I was like, oh man, I don't know how he's doing, or how she's doing. And I sent out these messages, and I got wonderful responses back. Me a good feeling, and I know it gave them a good feeling, because they were like, oh my God, thank you for reaching out, that was so nice of you, because I was, this whole pandemic situation, you want to reach out and be like, hey, how you doing, just checking in, see how you're doing, without any expectations of anything, and that's like a wonderful thing for somebody to receive. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I also want to thank you for sharing your journey, your obstacles that you overcame, and because that's, I know that's difficult, but I think it's going to help people to understand that there is help and there are, a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. Anybody that's with going through anything like that, and it's important to get it out. So I really, really want to thank you so much for doing that and for taking that time with us. I want to wrap up with you're working on your one man shows, right? One man show. I said one woman show, one man show. Well, you have worn mustaches, so so, so you're one woman show, and so where can people reach you? Where can they find you? To
Sure. Yeah.
cast you and
Yeah, on Instagram, I'm at Julia Julia _ and then my last name Ogilvie. That's my Instagram, and then like you can always find me on Facebook, like just like type in my name,
yeah.
and then yeah, and then like juliaogilvie.com.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put all that stuff in the description as well. So people can go down there and follow you and follow your work and your journey. You have a beautiful, beautiful future. I am excited that I actually had this time with you. I want to thank you.
Oh,
I
thank
hope
you,
when you,
John.
yeah, it's my pleasure. I hope when you come to New York, we actually get coffee somewhere.
Yes.
We can meet around Clay. They're not there. They're not there anymore. But yeah, wherever you are, I'll come to you and we'll have some coffee when you come back to New York. So thank you so much for your time, Julia. This has been a pleasure. If you ever need anything, I am here.
Thank
And
you. Well, it's been such a pleasure, John. This is so awesome. Thank
yeah,
you.
I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in to my little YouTube show here. And this has been Julia Ogilvie. She's amazing. So I'm gonna put everything down there on the description. So please follow her and follow her journey because it's an amazing one. And I'll see you all tomorrow for Music Makers with Break Time. So I'll see you all then. Take care, everyone.